Welcome to day 18, a project day, where we're going to build a guess the number guessing game. So, your project today is very straightforward and uses the while loop and the concepts we've looked at for the last couple of days. You're going to build a number guessing game. You're going to start by picking a number between 0 and 1 million and putting that in as the very first variable. You're then going to use a while loop to keep asking the user to guess what that number might be. If they guess a number too low, you're going to tell them too low. If they guess too high, you're going to tell them too high. And if they get it right, you're going to tell them they've won. You're also going to count the amount of attempts it's taken them to guess the number, and only show that when they have successfully guessed the right answer at the end of the program. I'd also like this for a bit of extra credit. If they put in a negative number, I'd like you to exit the program with the exit. We'll use that as a secret way of saying, I'm done, I don't want to play this anymore. When you're done, share your project in our community with Publish, or use the hashtag Replit 100 days of code to share it amongst your friends or family and your followers on social media. Let's see who has the best technique for guessing the correct number. Tomorrow, let's see who has the best. Technique for guessing. Guessing the correct number. Tomorrow we're going to look at a different kind of loop which sets itself up
a bit simpler. Day 19. Day 19. You've had your fill of while loops. While true seem to be the easiest ones to make, but really, they're for situations where you don't know how often something's going to repeat. What if you do know how much you want something to repeat? Let's look at a for loop, which does that for us. A for loop is a brilliant If we have an idea about how many times we want it to repeat, then we can use a for loop to loop code in exactly the same way that a while loop did, except we can get the setup of the variable, the control condition, and the increment set up within one line of code. Yes, these kinds of loops are for those of us that like efficiency, or those of us that are a bit lazy. But a for loop, regardless, is the way forward if you roughly know how many times you want to count something. So here's that while loop that we wrote a few lessons ago. And all it's doing is counting from the number 0 and stopping at the number 9, displaying all those values on the screen for us. Let's look at why a for loop is better. These two lines do exactly the same thing. Let's see. Boom! Not only is it shorter, but it has a bunch of secret tricks up its sleeve that help us loop and create variables. The way it's working is really straightforward. The for command, the first thing after it, is the name of a new variable that we're going to create. In this case, a variable called counter. Then the in command tells it what set of data to make that variable equals to. In our case, we're going to use a range function.
Here you'll learn about for loops in use. Be repetitive. We want a way to get the same by running the elements of a list, a range of numbers, changing some of the values. The values to change come from elements of a list, a range of numbers, or another iterable object. I'll explain what iterable means later on. The simplest case is using a for loop to iterate over elements of a loop. Here's a list of the days of the week, named weekdays. To write a for loop, we start with the keyword for. Then we need a variable to store an element in the list. Each element represents one weekday, so I'll call it weekday. Next we use the keyword in. Fourthly, we need to include the list, weekdays. Finally, we finish the line with a colon. For weekday, in weekdays, colon. The next part is the code that we want to run. This code needs to be indented by 4 spaces. You can put any code you like here. In this case, we'll do the simplest thing, which is to print out the iterator variable. That is, we're going to print out the days of the week. To call the print function, type print, then add parentheses. In this case, Datalab has automatically added the closing parentheses for me. Inside the parentheses, type weekday. Let's run the code. As expected, each day of the week has been printed. Let's examine what just happened. First, when the code entered the loop, weekday was set to the first element of weekdays. That is,
range function, if you only give it one number, will start at 0 and move to a state where the number is less than the number you've put in the bracket. So in this case, it's going to count from 0 to 9. Now, the for loop has done all the heavy lifting for us. Every time the line of code or lines of code are executed, and it returns to the top, we increment the variable value the for loop has created. Now there is one little thing we need to think about with this though, is that variable we've created is only really supposed to be there during the loop. So if I tried to print out counter after that, I may have a bad time. Now commonly computer programmers use the variable names I, j and k when they're using for loops for counting. There's no real reason for this other than everyone's variable k, as you might see, from 0 to 99, and continue. Let's that the 100 is invalid. We've mentioned because it needs is credits. So what the cube here's another this right, the very common way. Now it should work. You can do this, and then we get exactly the same way. Now it should work perfectly. Many people might add, here's some of my code challenge. Now a common thing that people do is borrow money. Money is repaid with interest. Interest is worked out annually. You are going to work out how much money I'll be paying back if I borrow $1,000 over 10 years at an APR of 5%. Now what that means is that every year the amount of money I owe will increase by 5%. In years at an APR of 5%. Now what that means is that every year the amount of money I owe will increase by 5%. Have perfect thing times and do. Day 20. You can count up. You start can count upwards in single digits of the for loop, but that's not exactly rocking your world. Let's see what that range function can do with a little bit of tweaking. So, we've used the cheat version of the range function so far. Give it one number and it will count up to that number. You can actually give the range function a few different options. The starting value, the ending value, and even the increments that we're going to move each time the loop changes. And this gives us massive flexibility. Let's see how it works. Okay, so here we've got a really simple program, just like before, to count upwards in ones, but this time I've set a starting value. Look at those brackets. We've got two arguments now separated by commas, as we've seen before. The first argument is the starting value. This is literally what it begins at. The second argument is a number, counted until day counter at day 0. Well, it's now only getting to day 6 though, so what else do I need to change? Go and show over the minor loop. So that functionality gives me a bit more control. It's the 12.
Range. Còn được dư.
half times 13, giving us a times table. Let's see what they are. The range function has a secret third option as well. The third option is the size of the increment. So how much should it increase by every time it loops? In this example here, I'm going to count between the numbers 0 and to just under 1,000,000, going up in 25. So basically, I'm showing you the 25 times table here. Let's run it and see what we get. You can see there that it's adding 25 each time. It's actually going through the entire looping, but only showing me every 25. And there we go, finishing the increment count step, which is always, I get a push by each time it goes through the loop. And that is what gives you the super The power with the range function. When you start messing with the you can do it's zip. It's day 21 and we are going to be building a fantastic game, fun for all the family, where you